Most golfers waste money fitting the wrong clubs. I see it all the time as a club fitter. People spend hours dialing in parts of their bag that don't matter quite as much, and they're neglecting the parts of their bag that actually affect every hole they play. My job is to make sure golfers get the most out of their equipment, and I'm here to tell you this. Not every club fitting gives you the same return on investment. Some clubs barely move the needle, and sometimes they can completely change your scores or just how much fun you have while playing the game. So which clubs should you actually get fit for? If you're only going to spend money on a few, which ones give you the best bang for your buck? Well, let's start with what is, in my opinion, the most important club in your bag to get fit for by a mile: the driver. Why? Because golf gets a whole lot less fun when you can't get off the tee. Let's think about it forwards and backwards. If you're hitting a really good drive on every hole and you hit a mediocre or even a bad iron or wedge shot, guess what? You can still score. You can still get up and down for par. You can chip in for birdie, and if the green's huge and you hit it on the wrong side of the green, you can still drain a long putt for a birdie. But on the flip side, if every drive is out of bounds, you're playing catch up all day. And it makes it a lot harder to score when you're giving shots back to the golf course. If you're in a tournament and you're not driving the ball well, chances are you're not going to be in contention. And if you're a weekend warrior, chances are you might snap your driver. The way I think about it is off the tee is where everything starts. So if you can't hit a driver, or if you don't have a driver that you're confident in at least getting the ball in play off the tee, I would say before you do anything else, go make sure you take care of that issue. So if you're gonna go all out, you're gonna go balls to the wall for one club or one fitting, make sure it's the driver. Make sure you're getting, the right head loft, the right shaft, even the right grip, the right neck setting, hosel setting. All of that stuff really does play a factor in making sure that you're the best you can be off the tee. Now, before we jump into the second most important club that you should be getting fit for, yes, it's important that your clubs fit, but it's also important that your clothes fit. And if you've watched this channel at all since its inception, you know that in every single video or thumbnail, I'm wearing something Primo. I'm super proud to announce that I have officially partnered with Primo. I have my own discount code. It is AKS15. I will have it linked in the description and my bio. It will also be in the corner of this video. To keep this short and simple, I appreciate you guys so much. None of this would be possible without your guys' support. And yeah, with that being said, let's keep it moving with the video. So the next club that I'm going to talk about is either going to be the second most important club to get fit for or the last club that I would get fit for, and that is the putter. And what I mean when I say that is it really depends on your situation. So if you're, a really low handicap, you're playing in tournaments, you're playing in big matches where you're trying to shave off as many strokes as you can, I would say putter would be the second most important club that you could get fit for. If you're one of those players, chances are your ball striking is pretty good and you're hitting a lot of greens. At that point, you're just trying to dish as many putts as you possibly can and two putt from 30, 40, 50, 60 feet. Really just limiting any three putts or basically having as few putts per round as you can possibly have is going to be really important, especially in tournaments like that. They usually come down to putting. Now, on the other side, if you're a weekend warrior, if you're just playing, once or twice a week, maybe less, I would say you don't need necessarily to get fit for a putter. Can it help? Sure. And if you really want to, absolutely go ahead and do it. But I would much rather see you get fit for clubs to get you to the green and give yourself more birdie and par putts. Because yeah, it's awesome to drain a 30-footer, but if it's for double or triple, it doesn't really matter as much. So yeah, obviously putter is a golf club that you want a good relationship with, but it really depends on what you want out of your golf game and what kind of golf you're playing as to whether it matters as much, whether you're fit for your putter or it's just kind of whatever you have lying around. Next up would be the third most important category to get fit for, and in my opinion, that is going to be your irons. Now, these are going to be important to get fit for any golfer, but they're a little bit less important than driver. I would say definitely make sure you're in the right style of iron. That's going to be the big number one thing. So if you're maybe not the best ball striker and you're in, player's irons or blades, probably not going to help you at all. And then on the flip side, if you're a really good ball striker and you like to work the ball left to right and right to left, and you're able to do that, but you're in a super cavity back, game improvement style iron, again, probably not going to suit you best. So that would be number one, make sure you're in the right style of iron. And then number two would be dialing in shaft and lie angle. And this is something that I see all the time in my fittings. The shaft is most of the time wrong. I'll see a college athlete of some sort or just a stronger person, somebody that's going to swing the golf club pretty fast. Let's say they're swinging 7-iron at 97 miles an hour, pretty fast. and they'll come in and their shaft will be either a regular or a stiff, something that does not suit their game whatsoever, and they wonder why they have such inconsistencies with ball striking, direction, all that stuff. All of a sudden I put them in a dynamic gold 120 extra stiff, something like that. Just a very basic extra stiff shaft, and all of a sudden those inconsistencies become a lot better. And then from there, we can really dial in, if you're going through a full club fitting, what kind of shaft. So, a Modus is gonna have a lot more spin than, a KBS-C taper or something like that. Not to get super technical on you, but basically there are different, shaft characteristics with different manufacturers and different types of shafts. Overall, I would say just make sure you're in the right, kind of section. If you need an extra stiff, make sure you have extra stiff. If you need stiff, make sure you're in stiff. Regular, senior, so on and so forth. And then lie angle can be really important with irons too. Make sure if you need, 2 degrees flat or 2 degrees upright, anything in between, make sure you're at least in the realm of where you need to be. And the reason I say it's less important to get fit for irons than driver is you can naturally get away with an imperfect iron. So if I were to swing, I use extra stiff shafts, but if I were to get a set of irons that had stiff shafts in them, I can make them work. You can make them work, but they're not gonna be quite dialed in for you. So yeah, if they're not absolutely perfect, I don't think it's the end of the world, but if you're gonna spend money on 2 club fittings, I would probably say it should be driver and irons. Now the next most important category to get fit for me, is gonna be everything between your driver and your highest iron. Whether that's gonna be, 3 wood, 5 wood, 3 wood, 7 wood, 5 wood, 4 hybrid, whatever that may be, even if it's a driving iron, whatever that may be, figuring out what your gapping is gonna be between your driver and your 4 or 5 iron. Now, the reason this is so low on my list is because most of the time you're gonna hit driver off the tee anyway. There aren't gonna be a whole lot of times where it's like, okay, my driver's going too far to where I need to lay back with something. But there are still those circumstances, and a lot of the time these are going to be the clubs that you're hitting on your second shot into a par 5. And who doesn't like having an eagle putt? So if you have these clubs, tailored to your game, tailored to your swing, chances are you're going to give yourself a lot more eagle putts or a lot more eagle chips somewhere up around the green on those par 5s. And honestly, sometimes in these fittings, it's a lot more of a conversation than it is them hitting a bunch of golf shots. I can take their driver, for example, and kind of go based off that for specs, but then it's gonna be up to them as far as what they want out of these clubs. If they want something that is gonna launch really high and land really soft, chances are it's not going to be a 3 wood, it's going to be more of a 5 wood, probably even more of a 7 wood. And if they want something that they can keep low, kind of chop down at out of the rough, have it feel more like an extension of their irons, that's going to be a hybrid. Now, if you're paying attention, there's been one club group that I have not mentioned whatsoever, and I'm going to right now. That is your wedges. And here's where things get interesting. I can have somebody come in and hit 10 different drivers and 10 different irons and 10 different woods and be able to rank them from, best for them to worst for them and everything in between. With wedges, however, it's not quite that way. A wedge head in today's game is kind of a wedge head. They're all gonna spin a ton, they're all gonna grab out of the rough, they're all gonna do really, really good things. There's a lot of different technologies that you'll see marketed, but honestly, wedges are all gonna be relatively the same, or they're gonna be a lot closer to each other than drivers or irons. When you're picking out your wedges, it's gonna come down to what you're most confident in and whether you're a name brand type of person. So if you play pings all the way through and you really wanna stick to that, then just get the ping S159s or the ping glides. If you play Titleist all the way through the bag, get Vokeys. TaylorMade, you have the high toes, you have the MG5s, Cleveland, Strixon, you have the RTZs, pretty much whatever wedge. If you want to stick into that brand, they'll have a wedge for you. Now, the one thing that I cannot stress enough with wedges would be make sure the shaft aligns with your irons. Now, that doesn't mean that they have to be necessarily the exact same shaft. For example, in my old irons, I played X100s in my irons, and in my wedges, I went to S400s. So actually a little bit heavier in my wedges, but a little bit more flexible. And that's gonna depend on your feel. If you don't know exactly what you prefer the feel of in a wedge shaft, try and get something as close to your iron shafts as you can. Because if I had to guess, your gap wedge, you're swinging pretty much as hard as your pitching wedge or your 9-iron. It doesn't make sense to get a wedge shaft in that and not have a wedge shaft in, you know, your pitching wedge. Now there's one piece of equipment that I have not talked about at all, and it is actually used more than any of these clubs, the golf ball. Before you do anything else with your clubs, make sure you're figuring out what golf ball you're gonna play and try your best to stick to it. Now, I've said this in other videos and I stand by it. It's a piece of advice that I was given from a Titleist fitter, actually one of their pro fitters, guy who's fit, you know, Max Homa, Justin Thomas. He's fit some tour guys, so he really knows what he's talking about. You fit the irons and the wedges to the player, you fit the ball to the irons and the wedges, and then you fit the driver and the woods to the ball. So that means you should figure out whether you're a high spin player or a low spin player with your irons and your wedges and your putter, and make sure you know what you like the feel of and get the golf ball that closely matches up with that. So if you're a high launch, high spin player with your irons and your wedges, you should be checking out balls like TP5X, Pro V1, AVX, the Strixon Z-Star XV, Bridgestone Tour BX. There are a lot of great options out there. And then on the flip side, if you're a low launch, low spin player, you should be checking out balls like Z-Star Diamond, Pro V1X, maybe Pro V1X Left Dash, but also maybe not, that's kind of a niche ball. Chrome Tour, Bridgestone Tour BXS. Again, there's so many options out there. Just make sure you're figuring out what ball is right for you. So to wrap up, if you're thinking about getting a fitting, make sure you're starting with driver, then working your way down. Thanks again to Primo for supporting the channel. Use code AKS15 at checkout to save 15% off. I appreciate you guys sticking around. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button down below. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments and let the other viewers know in the comments if you've been fit for your golf clubs, and let them know any advice that you would have going into your club fitting. So again, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace out.